At Option Genius, we believe that you deserve freedom, financial freedom, so that you have no more worries and more than enough money. Time freedom, so that you could do what you want, when you want to do it. And choice freedom, to live your life on your terms. But the system and Wall Street are rigged against those little guys. So how do we fight back? Well, my friend, that's what this podcast is all about. My name is Alan Sama, and this is the Option Genius Podcast. Hey, passive traders, how you doing? This is Alan, back with another episode. Today I have one of my good friends with me, Mr. Eddie So. He is an amazing options trader, and he is 100% bought in. He loves what he's doing, and he's going to share with us some of what he is doing, some of his results, and his lessons that he's learned along the way. How you doing, Eddie?
Doing pretty good. How are you, Alan?
Good. Welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this.
Sure. Happy to.
So, Eddie, tell me, what do you do, Eddie? What are you all about? Who is Eddie?
Yeah. So I started my career pretty young. I think I've held a job since I was 15. And then I got into, I guess, my career job, if you call it, when I was about 19. I was actually in financial services. I worked for Citigroup for almost 10 years. I started as a bank teller and worked my way up, and I was at one point a manager, managing branches. And then just before I left, actually, I was on my way to becoming a stockbroker. Basically, I was getting my licenses. I actually had my Series 6, 63. I was going through and getting my Series 7. And I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, right in the heart of the Silicon Valley. And at that time, it was right before the .com boom. Or bust, I should say, booming. And I noticed all these young guys around me, making really good money in tech. So I decided at that point to make a career change after 10 years, and I got into tech. And so for the last over 20 years, I've been in the tech industry here in the Valley. Always in some sort of a sales capacity, whether it's business development or partnership sales. And when I sort of got out of the working world, I had worked up to the executive ranks, and I was running sales teams and partnership sales teams for various tech companies. So I've worked for companies small and large, small startups all the way up to really large, $100 billion companies.
Awesome.
And then I left tech and I started my own startup. That had been something I had wanted to do. And unfortunately, I started right in 2020 and right before COVID hit. So we took a little bit of a hit. I knew we would be able to weather the storm, but I knew I had to wait, right? And so we're still in stealth mode. But one of the things that I realized is going through option and this whole Option Genius thing, and trading just sort of came back around because I was actually a little bored during the pandemic, and I was looking at, what else can I do? And, maybe I can get some income. I used to trade, and that's how I stumbled across Option Genius. And then I came to the realization of, well, why am I putting all this money into my startup? I could be putting all this money into investing. And so I made the decision earlier this year, having gone through your program for probably like 6 to 9 months. I had seen enough and done enough and experienced enough to make a decision that, as of January 1st, 2022, so next year, I am going to basically live off of trading, meaning I won't be doing my startup anymore because I sank a lot of money into it. Timing wasn't the greatest. And I'm thinking my returns are a lot better with trading, and I don't work, it's a fraction of what I've done in terms of work versus a startup. So,
that's a pretty
I'm
big
committed.
move right there. You're like,
Yeah. I've been pretty fortunate in my career. I've worked hard, but I've been pretty fortunate as well. I've been part of some IPOs in Valley here. And so it's, it helped me be able to sort of save up to the startup, right? To fund the startup, because I have a few partners and we're self-funded. We're not at the stage where we're, looking for funding. So it's actually early enough for me to get out still. and still have a decent amount to invest to make a living off of.
So are you going to get that money back that you put in, or is that lost?
Yeah, so I'm going to continue as an investor, but more on the silent sort of investor side versus, being in operations. Okay. So I'll get that money back eventually. I may even invest more into it, but I just will be sort of a silent investor, non-operational versus what I am today, which I pretty much GM right now. So
okay. So let me see if I can recap that. So you've been doing well. Obviously, you're in, San Francisco, very expensive to live there, probably one of the most expensive cities in the world to live. So obviously, your expenses are pretty high, and your income has to be pretty high to match. You decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to start my own company. So you start that. Doesn't go as expected. And so while you are trying to get that off the ground, you decide, hey, you know what? Let me try something else too, and I'll learn this whole option thing. And then you said, okay, I'm doing better at the options than at my job thing, so I'm going to just switch.
Exactly. Yeah. And it takes so much less time, right? I mean, if anybody started a company like yourself, right, yeah. You're working, 24/7. And so for a larger return and a lower amount of work and time of working, it's a no-brainer.
Right. So how long have you been doing options the way you've been doing it now?
Well, the way I've been doing it now with Option Genie, it's probably about a year or so. Like, when I was back at Citigroup, I did some trading and, but that was sort of small time. I was mostly buying options and I wasn't very successful at it. Mm-hmm. And then now, during the pandemic, as I was looking around and researching, I started swing trading a little bit. Mm-hmm. There was a service through Investors Business Daily, IBD, mm-hmm. that they had a swing trading program that they basically just tell you when to get in and get out. And I did that. It wasn't very successful, and you had to sit in front of the computer all day. As soon as you got one of their alerts, you got to run back and put in the trade or get out. And so that didn't work out too well. And I just didn't really like the model. And then I stumbled across Option Genius. I think you guys came up in one of my social media feeds. I can't remember if it's Facebook or something or through the web. It was online somewhere. And I looked at all your courses and I thought, wow, this is exactly what I want to learn, right? Because I knew about option just from my financial background, but I never really got deep into it to the point where I was really confident and having, consistent success. And that's when I dove in and, I started with the oil program, as you know.
Right.
And had some successes there, which then got me very interested in credit spreads or layup spreads. Yeah, layup spreads. Mm-hmm. And then I joined and subscribed to Simon Says. And then I got, I thought, wait, I want to learn how to do this myself. And so I joined your credit spread mastery course.
Yep.
And then after that, I read your passive trading book. And I wanted to get into passive trading because then again, that means less work. And I joined the passive trading group. And then most recently, everything has been great. I just keep on wanting to learn more. And most recently, I just completed your Iron Condor course, right? In my mind, I want to have different strategies to execute depending on what the market does, right? Directional trades are great when you have a great bull market running like we have. Mm-hmm. But I also want to be able to trade successfully if the market is just going sideways or down, and just have a sort of arsenal to be able to handle whatever the market does. And your courses do that, right? You enable people like myself, your students, to be able to have that sort of all-around education or knowledge.
Yep. So, I mean, we try to have something for every single market, and you kind of did it the opposite way. We kind of tell people, hey, you start with passive, build up something there, learn the basics, and then you can move up to credit spread mastery and then Iron Condors and then get into oil last because it's probably the most advanced. You went the opposite way and you started with the toughest one first and then you went down. But, either way it works as long as it makes sense, right? So
it made sense to me, and maybe because I had my financial background. But yeah, you're absolutely right. For somebody, that was probably the thing for me. I wouldn't call it a regret, but if I had to do over, I would probably have started with passive trading and work my way up in that sort of curriculum the way that you just described. I think starting with oil was definitely a little backwards.
Yeah. I think maybe though that might have helped you to get it off the ground faster.
True.
Because with the passive trading, there's different strategies involved. And so it's like, oh, do I do this one? Let me learn about this one. Then let me learn about this one. Then let me learn about this one. Sometimes people get confused or they get, it just takes too long for them to get through it, where oil options is just one strategy, just like, hey,
True.
This is it.
You're
This
right.
is what we're doing. This is the way we're doing it. Boom, boom, boom. It works. Here's money. Oh, yay, success, right?
Yeah, you're right. Because thinking back, that's what sort of got me into it and more excited is I was having quick successes with what I was learning in oil, what got me interested to the next one and so forth. So yeah, you're probably right.
I think we might have to restructure the passive one to see,
Put
what's
the
the best way to
curriculum.
do it. Yeah. So you've been doing this for about a year now, and
Mhm.
how have you been doing? How are your results?
Pretty good. I'm at for the year to date right around 60, a little higher than 62 or 63% year to date, somewhere around there. And I follow the rules, right, and I shoot for 10% every month. The interesting thing though is that when I looked back at my trades, what I learned is that every time I lost, it was because I didn't follow something in the rules. And so had I followed the rules, I think I would probably be somewhere in the 70s.
Okay. All right.
So the
about
lesson learned for me, is you just got to follow the rules. Don't let the emotions or anything get to you. You have to be very disciplined in how you invest. And if those rules came from years of your knowledge and experience, right, in doing this. So, you just got to follow them. Don't let anything else get in the way and you'll be fine.
That's probably the hardest part, following the rules. And I mean, you've seen me. I don't follow them 100% of the time either. And then we get burned.
Right. Sometimes I think, I think one of my mistakes earlier on was I was actually, I believe, too much in the market, or I was too optimistic, if you will. I would be down on some and I wouldn't get out at 25%, right? Which is what the rules say. And so, then I watched it and I just kept watching it, and it just went down, down, down. All of a sudden I'm in the money. So, luckily I was saved a few times where, came back up and I took, less of a loss. But in general, again, I should have just followed the rules and everything would have been fine.
Yep. I mean, well said. I mean, it's easier said than done, right? I mean, you've been there and it's like, okay, emotionally, I want to do it, but it's going to come back. It's going to come back. And then I think that discipline part is the thing that comes in last after years and years of like, getting your butt kicked over and over again. I think that we finally get smart enough to be like, okay, fine, I'm going to get out, and then eventually you get to the point where like right now it's all fresh. It's all interesting and it's all new. So the money aspect and, getting that return and be like, oh man, I want to get up to 100% this year. Oh, if that's your goal, it's really motivating. Eventually, after a while, you get to the point where, I'm just going to try not to lose money. That becomes a whole new ball game. It's like, yeah, I'm going to put it on. And most of the time it's just going to work. But the months that it gets in trouble, I just don't want to lose money, and then if that works, then overall at the end of the year, I'm going to have fine. So it's not like we don't want the big roller coasters. We just want steady, 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 a little bit dip. Okay. And then steady, steady dip and then steady. So but you'll get there. I mean, eventually it just, I think it's a natural, it's a natural progression and mental aspect as well. It's not, eventually you'll get to the point where, okay, another winning month, ho hum, it's not that exciting anymore. Right. But yeah, so I mean, 60 some percent for the year. What'd you say? 63? 63% for the year.
Year to date.
And I mean, we've only been, 8 months. So that's freaking incredible. Very kudos to you, man. That's awesome.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
So I did want you to show me or show everybody your license plate. That was really cool what you just did.
Oh yeah, I don't know if this was a podcast or if you're gonna
we're recording. We're going to show the video too. We're going to put up on YouTube. But
Yeah, so I just got this license plate. This is, I wanted to surprise Alan during this video.
That's awesome.
It just sort of shows how committed I am. I love it. I live this stuff every day now, and it's exciting. I think it's exciting and fun,
Yep.
right? And I wish I actually would have found out about this sooner and had done this when I was, a little younger, even. But
No,
it's
but
never too late.
no, it's not. I mean, for those of you guys who are listening on the podcast, Eddie has a license plate, OP Trader. Oh no, sorry, OG Trader. No, was it OP?
No,
OP.
OP.
OP Trader. Yeah, so
It's
option
short
trader.
for option trader.
Option trader. Yep. No, I like it. I like it, and I love the colors too. It looks really nice. So is that going to go on your Lamborghini?
No, another car. It's already on there. One day, maybe I can do that.
Yeah.
So no, like that. Hopefully that tells you I'm all in.
Okay. So now you said you're all in, and you're going to make the switch permanently or full time to trading in a few months from now. So what size account will you be playing with at that time?
Yeah. So I think in order to be totally comfortable being able to make a living and also keeping in mind that, I'm not always going to get the 10% every month. It's going to be about $1 million.
Okay.
And so if you look at, even, of course, 10% is great a month, right? On $1 million,
yeah,
you can definitely, live off that. But even if you get half of that,
yeah, I think you could live off that 100,000 a year.
right?
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, Jesus, I could be doing this or putting money in the startup, right? Which that will come, but it's going to take a little bit more time.
Right.
This is more immediate.
Okay. So now how are you going to break that up? Because you're doing oil options, you're doing layups, and then you're also doing stocks. So how are you spreading that out?
Yeah. So actually, before I even get to that, let me just mention, I was going to say this earlier, is I spoke with my accountant and he actually said, hey, Eddie, I advise you to actually form a business, create an LLC, and trade in your LLC because you'll have certain tax benefits. You can write off the commissions and the fees, and you can write off all the courses you're taking. Of course, I'm not giving accounting or tax advice here. This is just what my accountant told me. So everybody's listening, maybe you ask your own attorneys. But so what I've actually done was just earlier this week, I formed a new company in California, an LLC, just to trade. And I'm in the process of opening an account with TD Ameritrade, so I can move from my personal account to this business account, to trade. And awesome. There's some liability stuff too there that it protects you from you get sued. They don't go after your personal assets. But I just thought I'd throw it in there because, it's important if you're going to do this full time, I think.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then especially, like you said, the liability thing, when you get into the bigger numbers, you get into a car accident or your wife gets into a car accident or somebody slips and falls in front of your house, they can go after all of your personal assets. That includes your trading account. So, if that's what you're using to pay all the bills, you want that set off aside in a separate place where nobody can touch it. And if it's a totally separate thing. So I really like the fact that you've gone ahead and done that. It's very important.
Yeah, no, I thought it was too. And I have some real estate too, and I keep that separate from that. And it just makes sense all around.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
And then in terms of sort of how I split it up right now, I'm doing about 75 to 80% credit spreads.
Okay.
In my mind, I think that's a little high. That's why I took your Iron Condor course, because I felt like, in a good bull market, the credit spreads, directional trades, will be successful. Mm-hmm. But what if we go into a sideways market? What am I going to do then? And so that's where the Iron Condors would come into play. And I also moved my IRA from JP Morgan to TD Ameritrade because I was paying somebody, a good amount of money to manage it. I was part of their private client program and they were doing everything. And I was paying a bunch of fees. I got my statement. I look at it, I'm paying a bunch of fees. And I'm like, you know what? I could do better than this. So I got rid of them and I just transferred it over to my TD Ameritrade account so I can manage it myself. And what I plan on doing there is selling covered calls and maybe cash secured puts. And, so I have a, more diversified portfolio than, just doing mostly credit spreads.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's what I was gonna. I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing that much and if that's the whole size, but obviously you have your trading account and then you have your retirement funds. So in the retirement funds, we want something a little bit more stable, maybe, something that's gonna, instead of like our options they last a month or two and then expire. The stocks, if you're owning, or ETFs, like if you get an index ETF or something, you can just hold on to that for the next, 10, 15, 20
Right.
years, however you need to, and keep cash flowing that. So that's what we talk about in the passive program. And then in the credit spread mastery, that's the one that you're talking about with the credit spreads and the layups. So I guess, depending on what your goals are, how much you need every month, you probably don't need the whole million, depending. If you get aggressive and you use all of it or most of it, then obviously you're probably going to have a lot left over. But, thinking about, hey, making 5, 6, 7% a month, that's still going to grow pretty much. So I think we get to the point where, okay, like you were talking about the discipline issue where, hey, I'm going to let it go. Well, now it's like, okay, I don't need a whole 10%. I'm fine with like 4. So if
Right.
I'm up a nice amount, do I wait until the end of the week, or do I wait till expiration? Do I wait till I'm up 10% on this trade spread? Maybe I don't.
Right.
I'm up
Right.
7%. Hey, I'm taking my money and I'm going to the beach. I'm up. I'm done. I'm done for the month. I don't need to worry about it. So I think that gives you, when you have more money than you need, because a lot of people they do it the opposite, especially when they're like, oh yeah, I wanna get into trading. I want to do it full time, but I need to make $10,000 a month. Okay, great. How much money do you have to trade with? Oh, I have 50,000. No, that's not going to work. Or even if you have 100,000, if you have to make that 10% every month, that stress level on you, it just rises exponentially much higher. That pressure, and then you start making mistakes. So, I mean, that I don't know how much you need every month to survive. I'm assuming it's not going to be 100,000, but if it's like, hey, I have more money than I need, so I don't have to hit that 10% goal. If you can hit it, that's great. That's awesome. Maybe that's enough for 2 months. And if you're like, hey, for some of these months that we've talked about in the past, some months are really rocky in the stock market, September being one of them, October being one of them. So if you have, if you're doing really well and you're up 60, 70, 80% like you are now, September, October, maybe you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go on vacation these 2 months and I'm not even going to risk it.
Right.
It's like, what's the thing? I could lose 30% or I can make 10%. Do I want to try it? And then maybe you just don't. And obviously you'll see that when you actually do it over time, and you'll see what are your tendencies and what months are good for you and not. But I really like the way that you're thinking about it. It's like, hey, in a bull market, I'm going to be doing these spreads. Sideways market, I'm going to switch over to condors a little bit more. In the down market, you can go back to spreads, but the spreads, they'll work even in a sideways market. It's just, if it's very volatile, then that's the one that we don't want to play in, because we don't know exactly which way it's going. So if it's going sideways, we can still play a layup or a credit spread, but it's not we won't be as comfortable as we normally are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So then how much of the account will be in oil options?
Probably around 15,
Okay.
Sometimes 20.
That's a good amount.
Depending on the month. But again, I want to diversify even more if I can, right? I may even, later on when things are sort of more streamlined for me and I've reached my goal, I may even look into other commodities too, right? Besides oil. That way you have that, again, a further level of diversification besides equities and just oil.
Yep. So then right now, how much time are you spending on your trading?
Not too much. I spend a little bit of time when I'm putting the trades on. Mm-hmm. So I do my research. I look at the charts just like you taught us. I'll take a look at news to see if there's anything affecting it. I'll look at, all the different things on the checklist and the rules you gave us. That takes, I don't know, maybe an hour, right, when I do that. But after that, and I usually do monthlies, right? After I put it in, then the rest of the month, in the morning, you're just sort of looking at it, right? Maybe I look at it once in the morning, once usually around noon before the market closes in Pacific time, my time, to just make sure nothing, happened. And then that's about it. And, then I'll look, and most of the time if I'm up in a certain amount really fast for one particular stock or trade, I'll just get out and take the gain and then go back in if there's enough time for the month. So then you're sort of double dipping. And so I'll watch for that and then, and then apply that accordingly. I don't even adjust that much, to be honest with you, because I thought about, what Simon Says does, right, on his layup spreads, and, the fact that you've done back testing and, sometimes even if you don't adjust, you end up doing better than trying to adjust and save the trade. I've gotten to a point where I just get out. If it's gone to a certain amount, I'll get out and maybe I'll get back into that stock maybe the next month. Mm-hmm. But most of the time I've been getting into something else and not worrying about that one that, lost a little bit.
If you can get to that level emotionally, it just takes all the stress away. Yeah. You'll know at the beginning of the month, you'll be like, you know what, I'm putting on these, and I'm going to ask you this question, how many trades do you put on every month at one time, how many trades do you have? But let's say you have 10 trades on, you're like, you know what, I'm probably going to lose on 2 or 3 of these. The other ones are going to make money. So when I get one, I'll be like, oh, that was a loser. Okay, I'm taking it off. Let me go find something else. And that just takes all the stress away instead of, oh my God, this one has to come back. Whoa, yeah. And then you're watching it every day and you're worried about it and you're checking the news, watching, business channels and all that. And it's not how it's supposed to work out. And the cool thing about the Simon Says trades, we have 9 years of real money. It's not even back tested. It's like real money trades that are the results. And it's like, okay, I think that, it's been through up markets, down markets, bear, bull, all of them. It's like, okay, I think this is a little bit stable now. I think this actually works. So I feel pretty confident in being like, hey, you know what? This stuff works, to go out and say it. Before the first few years, I was kind of hesitant, I'd be like, yeah, hey, this is our track record. You make up your mind, you think about it, you look at it, and if you want to do it, you do it. But now after 9 years, I think I'm pretty confident in saying, yeah, this stuff works. So if you want to do it, you do it. Right. So let me ask you, how many trades do you have on total?
Well, this month I'm being cautious, like you said. You sort of warned the class, and so I'm in less, but typically I'm in about 10 to 12 a month. Okay. Usually what I do is I have instead of a 10% goal, which I use as a sort of an overall metric, I typically have a goal for a dollar amount goal for each trade I place. And so I'll know, and I'll put the same amount of money, the exact same amount of money in every trade, right? So I'm not going to do little here and then more on this one. Everything's the same. So across the board. So I know exactly, okay, what's the 10% gain, for example? And what's 25% gain? What's that dollar amount I can get in, out, whatever. And so I know from the odds that, you need to be doing about 10 trades, 10, 12 trades in order for me to hit that dollar goal every month. Okay. And so, so that's, typically about 10 to 12. And I think, you're telling us too, you sort of taught us, hey, in terms of the number of trades, don't get to a point where it's, difficult to track. Right. And I think, beyond 10 or 12 will probably be hard for me. I'll lose sight. I won't follow the news. I'll miss stuff. And so that seems to be the sweet spot. Again, according to the rules, of where I try to stay, in terms of about 10 or 12 a month. Right.
Okay. Sounds good. So now, while you've been doing this, what was the biggest challenge that you faced in terms of implementing or learning, or what was the hardest thing that you had to overcome?
I think for me, it's a little bit different. I actually jumped in pretty quickly. I didn't do very many paper trades. I think my, regret is in the beginning, I was sort of too optimistic, and I would do a trade and it'd be down, and I'd be like, oh no, I'll go back up. And all of a sudden the next day it's really down. Right. And so if I had to do over again, I would probably do a lot more paper trading to the point where I would do it for probably 3 months. And until I have that sort of consistent return, then I would maybe switch over. Again, this is what you teach in the class, and I didn't listen. And so, I mentioned before, the times I lose is when I don't follow the rules. And this is one of the first rules you taught us. I didn't follow it. And in the beginning, this is last year, right, in 2020, when I first started, I had a couple of losses there that hurt. And, but I've definitely learned from it.
Right,
That's
right.
for sure.
Yeah, so if I remember the first couple months you took a big loss, and then
Hmm.
after that, then it was on fire and you were just doing 10%, 10%, 10% every month.
Yeah. Yeah. After I learned the lesson of following the rules, I told myself, you know what? I'm not going to let any, emotion, good or bad, optimistic or pessimistic. I'm just going to follow the rules. And so I did that. And so I was doing pretty good. I was hitting, I think there's 3 months in a row where I hit 10%, like, right, 1 month after month. And so
Hmm.
I ended up doing pretty good.
So do you think that's what it was? That's what clicked for you? It's like, hey, I'm just gonna,
Yeah,
I'm just trying it on my own. I'm trying to, adapt on my own. But if there's a road there. I just need to follow the road.
exactly. I came to this point where, I took a big loss and I thought to myself, shoot, should I be doing this? And I thought about it, lost sleep over a couple of nights. And I thought, you know what? These rules were developed, on purpose. And it's based on years and years of trading experience, right? From you and the team. And so why am I not following these rules? And so I had to have sort of that heart to heart with myself to say, Eddie, stop being too optimistic or stop, doing things that are, that go against you. Let's just follow it. Do it for a few months and see what happens. And that's what I did. And that's when I had those 3 consecutive months of percent. And then I'm like, now I'm looking back and, so wanted to, sort of smack myself in the back of the head, going, why didn't I just do that in the first place? Right. So, but it was a lesson learned.
Hmm.
And that's, one of the things going into this year that I told myself is that, I must, just follow the rules. And I think we've done pretty well there.
Cool. So now these spread trades, how do you find them?
Yeah, so I'll go through the charts exactly as you explained it in the training, look at the trends, pretty much step by step, what you shared with us.
Hmm.
What really helped me is that the credit mastery course that I took, that was different than your other courses because your other courses were mostly videos
Hmm.
and maybe some homework here and there, which is good because it reinforces the knowledge. But the credit mastery course was good in that we did it for 3 months straight, every week for a couple hours, the same trade, same looking for the trade, same, how to look for the trade, how to, evaluate one trade against another, and then placing the trade, choosing the trade, and then actually placing the trade.
Yeah.
And that helps so much because after that 3 months, and we were just doing it over and over again, where now I can, I know all the math and everything of what I need to do. I don't have to look at a cheat sheet. I'll just figure out on a calculator real quick what's the max loss, what's the max max gain. I'll know, have all that ready to go so I could be a little bit faster.
Hmm.
And so, getting back to your question about how I go through the choose the trades, really just I followed, your steps.
Do you have any favorites?
Yeah, so I just haven't been in the tech industry for a while. I tend to like the tech sector,
Hmm.
and it's been doing well. So your typical Google, Apple, Cisco for a little while. Those types of companies. Again, what you taught us. I don't do any smaller companies, right? I want big, strong companies
Hmm.
that won't lose a significant price overnight,
Right.
right? So the big
Hmm.
strong guys, usually in the tech sector right now, as I mentioned before, I'm in Google for this period. I'm in PayPal, but I also try, obviously, I try to diversify too, right? I don't want everything in tech, right? I
Hmm.
don't want everything in credit spreads to begin with, but
Right.
that I don't want everything in tech. I try to mix it up a little bit. And, I'll usually go with the trend of what's in the news too, right? Okay, it's reopening stocks. Okay, which kind of, is it Travelocity or, airline stock? And then if it's it could be a growth, then it could, be a growth period. And I'll look for growth period stocks and pretty much look at what's going on.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Now you said that you've made the decision to go ahead and go full time. what was the trigger? Like, how did you feel comfortable to the point where, hey, I'm ready to do this? How did you know that? Because a lot of people, they have that same goal, but for whatever reason, they're afraid to quit the job, or they're afraid to go in full time or put all their money into this. What was it for you that mentally had you prepared? Because obviously you have a family. So, you probably talked to them about it, and they had their input as well, and they have to be comfortable, because if the wife says no, then it's kind of like a no. How did you get to that point?
When I saw consistent results where month after month I was not just in the positive, but sort of healthy, right? I mean, not every month was 10%, obviously, right? I mentioned my 63% year to date, but as soon as I saw that consistency, I knew that there's definitely something there. And I didn't obviously overnight think about, just quitting the job, whatever, and doing this full time. It was sort of an evolution, right? Where the first light bulb went off where, there's consistent results here, and I can do it month after month. And then when you get consistent, you start having these ideas of, what's next? What else can I do? Right. And, it opens up your opportunities, I guess. And you start thinking about everything else. And it got to a point there also to putting money and investing money in my startup. I didn't see the return right away. I know it's going to come. There's no doubt about that. I believe in my partners, etc. But the results weren't coming month after month, right? It's a long-term investment. You sink a lot of money into it, and you just don't see the results as fast. And so because of that consistency and my ability to sort of do it myself, right, and produce those results, that's what got me thinking, why should I continue to put money in the startup when I can be putting it, into trading and hopefully, right, earn a pretty good living.
Right. Were you getting paid by working at the startup?
We were in stealth mode for a little over a year. Okay. I wasn't getting paid regularly, but my partners and I had all been in tech before, and we had some IPO money set aside and savings again, because we were self-funding this thing, right? That I wasn't paying myself regularly. So that was another thing, and that's actually one of the reasons why I looked to see during the pandemic. I was a little bored because you can only do so much when you start a company and you're in the pandemic. So that's one of the reasons why I started looking out there to see what else was there, and looking at options, et cetera, reminded me of my financial services days, and that's when I decided to take the plunge.
Awesome. Okay. So
immediately with the income.
Yeah, and I know you're a smart guy, so you probably do also have the backup plan, right? I would assume that if you needed to, you could go back to working at the startup.
Oh yeah, no question, right? I mean, absolutely, that was part of the consideration, is that if all else fails, if the market tanks or whatever, I can always go out and get back into tech. Mm-hmm. I can, go back into my startup, right, in a more active role. So yeah, there's definitely, plan B, plan C, but, having a taste of this sort of lifestyle, of the trading lifestyle, I mean, once you have that experience for a couple of months, it's hard really to go back. It's hard to go back. And so now, I'm at the point where, and maybe this is me with just daydreaming, but I always wanted to give back more than I am now, right? I mean, I volunteer at my church every Sunday, and, I'll donate, et cetera, but I know I could be doing more. And so I thought, if I can really make this thing work, I'm going to have a lot more time and probably financially be able to contribute more than I am now. And so that's another way, now that I'm sort of getting closer to that July 1 deadline I set for myself, I'm already picturing 6 months, 12 months down the line. If this thing's successful, what am I going to do after that? And so I would love to volunteer more. I would love to contribute more financially to different causes, and look how I could do more from that perspective.
That's awesome. I love it. I love the fact that you're giving back. That's the primary goals of me starting Option Genius, was like, hey, let me help people make more money so that they can then use that to go and make the world better. Because I can't do it by myself. So, It's like I try, but it's not, I'm just one person. But if we have a whole army of people that feel the same way and that they don't have that stress of, gotta go get my money today, gotta go get my paycheck, gotta go cash this, and there's not enough left at the end of the month where I can actually go out and help somebody else. I think if we have a whole army of people who are doing it this way, it'll help definitely spread the good word and
Absolutely
for the better. So what do you think the future holds for you now?
Well, I'm going to continue working on the goal. Hopefully I'll report back, maybe first, second quarter next year and share with you,
Yep.
How I'm doing. I mean, we talk every week on our calls anyways, but, we could do a follow-up then, but
yep, I'd love to do that.
No, I'm well on my way now. I'm pretty prepared, waiting for some last minute things like forming the business entity and waiting for that to come through and, just sort of logistical things like that before I actually start, going in 100%. So, no, I want to thank you and your team. I think about if I hadn't stumbled across, right, all the great stuff that you guys are sharing and teaching, I wouldn't have this, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be, have this opportunity, right? And I'd probably still be, not that is a bad thing, but I'd be, still working the startup, but the return wouldn't come for, a number of years versus, almost near instantaneous with trading the way you've taught us. So I thank you, and you have a great staff on your team, very responsive. Sometimes when I freak out and I have a question, I'll send it over and Corey or yourself will, send an answer right back. So that makes me feel good that I have that sort of support. Plus the, Facebook group, the weekly calls that we do, all of that is very helpful because you can't do it alone. Mm-hmm. You have to, especially in something like this where what you're taking on. If you do it yourself, it could take you ages. But if you have a group, you have a leader that can share with you what they've done, so you can learn from it and do it too. And then you have that support network. Like I go back and forth on chat with Nelson, right, in our group. You make friends, right, and then you have that support network, and you encourage each other to do better.
Yep. I mean, slowly we're getting there where we're building up this whole system. And I think, it's been a pleasure to work with you. It's been a pleasure to help you and to hang out with you and talk to you. And you've done it. You've done everything. You've taken everything and you've used it, you've learned it, you've internalized it, and then you've actually implemented it. There's a lot of people that get to that point, but they don't implement. Or they get stuck somewhere along the way, and it's but you had a dream, you had a reason, a goal, and you were like, okay, I'm going to take this. It makes sense to me. I'm going to try it, and then it worked, and then you just kept going with it. So, kudos to you, and congratulations on all your support. It's been a wonderful it's been a wonderful experience to have you with us.
Thank you. But one thing I will mention though, Alan, is that I think the key for anybody that's thinking about doing this mm-hmm. is just do it, right? You can start small, right? You don't have to start big. You can paper trade. You can start with a few grand and just do it and learn it. And anybody can do it, right? You don't have to have a big account. Just getting started is much better than doing nothing at all. So that's what I would, say to encourage other people that are thinking about doing this is you really have nothing to lose, by doing this. I mean, the tuition fees that I paid were made up probably within my first couple of trades, right? So, there's absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Yep. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. One last piece. I don't know. I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with trading, and this is for those of you guys who are listening. I'm not an accountant or an expert on this, but you said you were opening your company in California. Did you look at opening it in a different state?
Yeah, it's a good question. I looked at Delaware, and I actually opened my startup filed in Delaware because there are some laws there that, again, speak with your own attorney, but that are more favorable to business owners over there. I didn't feel I needed it here with just a trading, because I won't have clients or anything with my trading account. It's just me doing my my own trading that I didn't really need the Delaware protections.
Okay. But from a
that's why
tax point of view, because I know California does have state corporate tax, right?
They do, in terms of, there's a couple of things that my accountant was explaining to me, like mark to market and things that I would be able to do.
Okay.
I can't remember the specifics, but I can tell you that the good outweighed the bad.
Okay.
Meaning,
cool. As long as you looked at it, that's fine. Because I've heard a lot, and whenever we're opening a corporation in Texas, I don't have a problem because there's no corporate tax. But that's what people say. That, hey, there's no personal income tax here, or there's none in Florida. But even for opening a corporation, I've heard lately that, hey, Texas is okay, Florida is okay, Delaware is really great if you're going to go public, or banks, like banking, those guys, they have a lot of protections there. Nevada's a really good one for other things.
Yeah.
So, okay. But as long as you have it covered, that's cool. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Cool. Any final takeaways or bits of advice you got? I mean, you shared a lot, but anything else that's...
No, I think I'll report back in, next year. But again, a big thank you. I mean, this journey has been awesome. I mean, of course, I mentioned that, in the beginning, I took some hits, and, I would say, anybody thinking about doing this, do it. Don't get discouraged. You're going to have ups and downs. That's just sort of built in. Right. But there's definitely a lot more ups than downs. So, it's doing something like this is a lot better than doing nothing at all. And so I would encourage everybody to, jump right into it and learn. And again, a big thank you to you and your team as well.
No, you're welcome. You're very welcome. But thank you so much for being here and helping us out.
Of course, anytime.
Are you ready to get started with passive trading and be a consistent and confident and profitable trader, generating cash flow consistently from the stock market? Well, I have some great news for you. For a limited time, we are offering my new book, Passive Trading, for free. All you got to do is go to passivetrading.com/free book, and we will send you the book in the mail for free, as long as you cover the postage and handling. So if you can cover that, we'll send you the book for free. We've already printed it. We got it for you. We're going to send it out to you. It's free. All you got to do is just go to passivetrading.com/free book and learn the basics of passive trading. Get the behind the scenes, get some examples, learn the strategies, and put this stuff to work in your life right now. Remember, go to passivetrading.com/free book and get yours now while this offer is still available.